Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ushanka Show, where we all can learn something new about life in the Soviet Union. And just in case if you're new to my channel, my name is Sergei Sputnikov, and I was born in the USSR back in 1971. And in today's video, we're returning to the topic of the Soviet vacation. I covered that topic quite a bit, quite extensively, and I actually have a separate playlist. Link will be below in the comment section. Okay, so recently I had a conversation with my mother, who moved back to Kiev from northern Ukraine, and now we have opportunity to FaceTime each other, and she told me more details about our vacation that happened in September of 1977 when my mother and I went to the Black Sea. But before we start, let's do a quick refresher. So Soviet Union, it was a huge country in a horrible location. So you need to think about it like it's a Canada, but just twice bigger. The size of the Soviet Union was 8.6 million square miles. Canada is 3.8 million square miles. So also barely populated, huge country located way up north. So the only way you can get a decent, warm, sunny vacation will be traveling to south to the Black Sea shore, especially to the Crimean Peninsula. And the cheapest way would be to purchase so-called putyovka, a travel voucher, but there was a shortage of those, especially going to the nice places. For example, my family managed to get putyovka only once, and it wasn't to the premium location at the Black Sea, but it's kind of crappy location at the Azov Sea. And if you're interested in the topic of Soviet putyovka, I have a separate video made just about it, and link again will be below in the comment section. So because of the shortage of putyovkas, many people traveled to the Black Sea on their own, and they rented housing from the locals. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And recently I realized it's actually really easy to remember Soviet income. It was an average of 1 ruble an hour. So all you need to remember, 1 ruble an hour, and then you compare to what you make an hour, and then you can look at prices and decide was it cheap or expensive to buy specific things or services in the Soviet Union. 1 ruble an hour. Okay, so quick background. Back in 1977, when I was 6 years old, I had a pretty serious surgery on my right foot. So I was limping, and the doctors decided that I need to have my Achilles joint extended, make it longer. And so that was a big cut. It didn't heal really well. And the doctor recommended my mom to take me down to the Black Sea so I can have warm sea water baths every night. And that would supposed to help with my healing. And this is how the scar looks now, 50 years later. So as you see, there was a pretty major surgery. So we took an overnight train from Kiev to Simferopol, and the only tickets were available was for the so-called боковые места, the side places like you see at this art. So the people walk right by you, and you can turn bed into the table with 2 sitting positions. So this lady and a kid, that's how my mom traveled with me. Since I was only 6 years old, I could travel for free. So we had to share that little tiny bed, and our place was right next to the bathrooms. So that was a pretty ugly trip. When we arrived to Simferopol in the morning, we switched the trains and took local elektrichka, so that's like interurban train. And we went from Simferopol to Yevpatoria, which is located right on the shores of the Black Sea. As I mentioned earlier, it happened in 1977 when I was 6, but I still remember us arriving to Yevpatoria train station because it looked so wild. The whole perron, so the area where your train stops, was filled with people, and they were holding signs in their hands of pieces of paper offering to rent their apartments. So they'll be standing with a paper and it says, address or what kind of room or whatever and the price. So that looked so bizarre. So that was a Soviet era Airbnb. And that was how my mother found our housing option right there at the train station. And I need to remind you, we went to the Black Sea in September. So that was off-peak season. The majority of Soviet people took vacations in the summer months. So I assume prices were even higher in June, July, and August. So let's talk about prices off season in Yevpatoria, which was not really the premium location. Most people prefer to go to so-called UBK, Южный берег Крыма, the southern shores of Crimea. That's more rugged, has more mountains, is way prettier. Simferopol was on the boring side. So my mother told me that she paid 4 rubles a day for 24 hours for a single bed. So we didn't rent a room and not an apartment. We rented a bed in a single room apartment. So this old lady, she was a retiree, I assume. she had 3 beds that she rented to people, and she had a small bed to herself separated by the privacy curtain. So this old lady, whose pension was maybe, I don't know, 70, 80 rubles a month, could make 360 rubles a month just from renting beds in her apartment. And I would assume prices in the summer were even higher, maybe 5, maybe 6 rubles a bed. So this is how a lot of people who lived in Crimea along the Black Sea shore, they made enough money during the summer months to just kind of take it easy during the winter months. And we can talk about how comfortable could be your vacation if you share a small room with total strangers. But at any rate, since it was September, there was only one more bed rented out, and there was a lady from Moscow with her daughter, and that lady was a divorcee. So she was messing with some local guys, and at some point she realized that she picked up STD and she had to leave early. And she left crying because she tried to get her money back from the apartment owner, but the lady refused. I guess the rule was once you agree to rent, you pay up front the entire month. But the lady refused, so poor Moscow girl left home crying, and remind me that story about what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas unless it's STD. So whatever happened in Yevpatoria stayed in Yevpatoria except STD. And of course you can imagine that cooking options were limited too, because you had to share a kitchen with the owner. So my mom said she made breakfast really basic for us, then we ate at Stolova for lunch. So we still spent some money for food. So I can imagine with renting a bed, train tickets and stuff, we probably spent close to 200 rubles for 1 month at the Black Sea, when my parents' salary was combined about 300 rubles a month. So as you see, it was not really cheap to spend summer vacation by the Black Sea. And I remember reading stories that some people who lived, in the Black Sea coastline area, they even converted their chicken coops into the small rooms with the beds that are rented for 5 rubles a day. So income opportunities were huge if you were in the right location. But of course, when you're a kid, you don't really care about the cost. So all I have is just good memories and some pictures, like this photo of Comrade Seryoja sitting in his little boat. Once again, there was some private entrepreneur, photographer, made this little fake sailboat, and he would offer people to take picture of their kids in a sailboat. And kind of interesting that Julieta is spelled not in Russian. Okay, my friends, well, I hope you enjoyed this story about Soviet vacation, and if you did, please don't forget to like this video, maybe share with your friends, and we'll talk to you soon. До побачення, goodbye.